All right, let's drink some whiskey, shall we? So today we're gonna do something fun, and I wanna show you guys my 3 favorite bourbon whiskeys that are in my collection. We've dove into Jeremiah's collection, who's the other whiskey boy. He lives in New Jersey. He owns a house, he has a full basement, which he's able to collect more whiskeys. Myself, on the other hand, I live in an apartment in Austin, Texas. So space is a little limited, so I would say my collection is a little bit more quality over quantity. I have to be really careful about the ones that I decide to buy, the whiskeys that I decide to go out and say yes to and say no to, because I'm out of space. I'm gonna do a future episode where I show my full collection and we'll do a tour, because if you're not familiar, we do a couple things on this channel. One, we do Show Me Your Whiskey, which is a new series that we're doing. We travel around the US and we show off different whiskey collections, tell the stories of the people who have that collection, like when did they get into the whiskey, how long they've been drinking whiskey, their favorite ones in the collection. And we're gonna be doing that because we travel pretty often. And I would say with our connections with our Instagram and our TikTok and now YouTube are pretty strong. So we're gonna be able to find all these different people with different stories. It's just gonna be a fun thing to do. So anyway, we're gonna be shooting that for my collection soon. Keep an eye out. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, hit a like button if you wanna check that out in the future. But today we're gonna focus mainly on my 3 favorite bourbon whiskeys in my collection. So like I said, I don't have a ton of whiskeys. Maybe to your average person, they would say it's a lot of whiskeys, because I have this full dresser here that's filled in both sections with the whiskey. On top, it's overflowing because I have no more space in my apartment. Above my fridge, I have whiskeys that are unopened that I'm saving for later. In the cabinets underneath, I have whiskeys. In my second bedroom closet, I have cases and cases of different whiskeys. So we've created a lot. You know, recently I had to we threw out like 35 whiskeys. Now, if you're not familiar, we also have an Instagram and a TikTok, and that we originally were bigger on that than we are on our YouTube channel. So we have, I think, 215,000 followers on our Instagram. If you wanna check us out on there, we do a lot more short form videos on there. And then we're on TikTok, which is like 100-something thousand followers. So not only do we do bourbon hunting and buy a lot of different whiskeys, but we also get sent a lot of whiskeys. Brands, ask us to try it. And one thing about us, you'll learn, is that we care about being genuine. So sometimes we say no, if it's a brand we don't like. Other times we say we would love to try it as long as you're okay with us maybe not posting it. If we try it, we don't want to do a post on it. We don't want people to go try something if they don't think we'll like it. We do get tossed up sometimes to talk badly about a brand. You could say like, no, you should go out there and tell people it's shit because we want you to be 100%, authentic. Sure, that's always an option. But for us, sometimes brands can get better. We might give that feedback to them so they can continue to work on it and keep growing as a brand. I specifically know one brand, I don't want to say their names, that when they first started, like many whiskeys, that first year or two, it can be shit because they're still in that growing phase. Like whiskey does take a while to get good, So it's not always good right away. So anyway, like I was saying, we get a lot sent to us. We don't post everything, we don't review everything, and that's why I ended up throwing away about 35 bottles. But today's episode, let's focus on that. So it's gonna be my 3 favorite whiskeys in my collection, specifically bourbon whiskeys. Now, let's just say first, before we really get into it, what makes it my favorite. Now, we're not just gonna do what's amazing. It's more to it than that, in my opinion. It's the memories we had when we drank it. That can be a factor. It's maybe how allocated it was. There is something about, it took 3 years to get that bottle and I finally got it. Now, did it live up to the hype? If it didn't, it's obviously not gonna be on that list. But if it did live up to the hype and it took a while, there's something about that search that adds to it. And then of course, the taste. Diving back into these whiskeys, how good was it? So I think all of those factors are a big thing. How much you like the brand, that could be a factor too. But I think it's those things, it's taste, the experiences you had with those whiskeys. They all play a factor, because you could say, I love these 10 whiskeys, right? They all taste great. But what's the thing that's gonna put that other whiskey over top of those other whiskeys? And I think it's gonna be those like special memories you had, or the first time you tried it, or I finally got to get it after 3 years or whatever it was. So these are my factors. I wanted to let you guys know that before I dive into it. Right now I'm having Old Granddad's 16 year. Now I find this one to be a fascinating one because people are tossed up on it. This isn't gonna be on my top 3 list. It's very good, but not my top. People are very tossed up on it because it's $200. So that's why a lot of people say they don't like it. And I get that. But to me, I love it. We'll do a separate video on this in the future. But for now, I'm just gonna say I lean on the side of people that thinks you should get it. I think it's worth the buy for $200. I mean, great color for a 16 year. That's another one, going back to, like I said, the memories. We got to visit the Suntory headquarters in New York City, which Suntory owns Jim Beam. And they showed us around, gave us tours, and we actually got to try this like 3 months before it was even released. So once again, that holds a special place in our heart. But I think this is good. That's what I'm sipping as I'm getting ready for this video. And let's dive into my top 3. Let's start off with number 3. Number 3 on my list of my favorite bourbons that I have in my whiskey collection is going to be Four Roses limited edition. This one is specifically the 2022 release. Like I mentioned before, some of it's going to be because it was allocated and it took a while for me to get, and this is one of those bourbons. Now I was able to try it before I got to officially have this bottle. There's a place in Austin, Texas called Nickel City. That's my go-to whiskey bar in Austin if you ever visit. And there's a reason. It's not just that they have a great selection of different whiskeys. It's also the fact that they're affordable. Of course, there's going to be some that are a little overpriced than if you can get it for an MSRP, but I was able to get it, I'm pretty sure it was like at the time $22 when I first got it from there. Crazy pours of a bottle that is only released once a year by Four Roses. Now this one is very hard to get, it's very rare. I know that they'll do a raffle every year to get this, so you can enter the raffle on Four Roses website. You just gotta keep an eye out when they do it, and they'll pick somebody, but then you can only pick it up at the whiskey distillery. So you better plan a trip to go there to be able to pick it up. So very hard to get. I was lucky enough to find this at a store. I went to a store nearby, and I think the guy was a little confused because he has all of his specialty bottles overpriced by like 200 to 300%. Like there's a Stag there that was like $250, which is crazy. So this one he had for $250. So I'm pretty sure the MSRP of this is $225. And maybe you could argue it's $250, but $225 for Four Roses limited edition usually is what you'll find it at. They also have like anniversary releases, but finally got this one. And what makes this one special? Fresh little pour right there. It's always fun. Oh my God. That's like a juicy fruit on the nose. That's crazy. So much fruitiness. It's like red raspberry. So what makes this special? Well, this is a masterclass in blending. So what Four Roses does is they take their best whiskeys that are out there and they blend them together to make this yearly release. This specific one, part of the blend has 20-year-old barrels in there. So you know, based off of the Jim Beam that we were talking about, the old granddad, the 16-year, older it's aged, the more it's gonna cost. You know, it's expensive. So it's reasonable that this one can go for about $250. So I'm looking at it right now just to like kind of go off of what's blended in this one. They have a 14-year OSEV blend in there. They have an OBSV blend in there from their single barrels. They have a 15-year OESK in there, and they have an OSEF 20-year in there as well. So this is one heck of a blend where they're taking those single barrels and they're blending them together. Let's give it a little taste. That's crazy. You know, what's so hard about this list that I'm doing today is I'm gonna wanna put some of these in other spots. Like I almost wanna put this one first, but the other ones I just thought hit a little better. This one impressed me. I actually just picked up a 2021 release not too long ago, so I'm excited to crack that one. We'll do that on a video as well. It's like strawberry jam. Of course you get a little bit of oak. You get a little bit of like rye spice in there as well. Once again, to me, a good whiskey gives you the notes you want, right? For me, I lean into fruitier notes. So you might say you don't like a whiskey because you don't like fruity, sweet whiskeys. For me, I like this, but I also like whiskeys that are aged. I met a lot of people out there when it comes to bourbons don't like older whiskeys. And the biggest reason I found is because they don't like that oaky taste, that woody taste. And sometimes whiskeys, once it hits about the 15-year mark, can become a little too woody. Depends on where it's made and other factors, but that can happen. For me, I don't like that taste. I don't know what it is about it, but there's something that I really enjoy that comes with it. And this is one, you're getting a great proof. You're getting, let's double check the proof here. Yeah, this is 54.5% alcohol percentage. Yeah, this is crazy. There's like little creaminess in there. There's so much fruit. It's like strawberry, plum. Like I said, there's a hint of rye spice, which I like. I don't like when it's overpowering, even though I like some rye, but this one, I usually lean more towards bourbons. Man, seriously, for $250, if you ever saw this on the shelf, you have to get it. What's crazy, these will go for $500 sometimes. Don't get me wrong, you'll see it for $350, $400, but a lot of times I've seen it go for $500. I mean, the bourbon market has been slowing down a little bit, which is nice, but man, coming in at number 3, it's the Four Roses limited edition. This thing is tasty, and this is one of my favorite in my collection. Coming in at number 2 on my favorite bourbon whiskeys that are in my collection is gonna be Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend, specifically the earlier releases that were done by Nancy Fraley. If you've never heard of Nancy Fraley, she's a master blender when it comes to putting together some of the best whiskeys that are out there. She's also done Still Austin's Tanager that everybody was freaking out about this year, but she's really known for these Joseph Magnus ones that she's done. Live on camera today, we're going to be cracking Joseph Magnus batch 30. So you have to look it up. I don't know when the specific dates are, but I know that it's like past 200 now, or 300. I think it's 200. She's no longer doing the blends anymore, so we can look that up. Maybe I'll put it in the caption. I can't guarantee you those are going to be just as good, but the earlier batches, under 200, under 100, phenomenal. So let's pour this real quick. Oh man, fresh crack, baby. All right. So why is this number 2 on my best bourbons that are in my collection? So this one too, I will say, is a finished bourbon. So it's a straight bourbon whiskey, finished in Armagnac, sherry, and cognac casks. And what's interesting about that is when it comes to the cigar blends, a lot of whiskeys usually are finished when it comes to that world, right? Cigar blends, they usually want to have a lot of punch to it so it can hold up with the cigar. But I want to say this, a big misconception is that if you see a cigar blend, you think that that needs to be drank with a cigar. That is not true. They can be drank separate if you never smoke, that is totally okay. And the reason why I say that, and even talking to some of these people that created these blends and other whiskey distilleries, they've even said it's so, I don't want to say strong, but it's so complex. And it has such a punch, like I was saying before, that it can hold up to a cigar. So you could even make the argument that it's something that you would actually want to get over some other whiskeys, some of these cigar blends. Are they all great? No, we've had a couple bad ones, but we are big fans of cigar blends. There's a lot we had. I mean, I don't know if you can see that color. That is awesome. Now, so this one in 2023, I ranked the one I had, which we just bottle killed recently, the #1 whiskey of the year, in my opinion. So as you can see why it's number 2 on my list. This is the first time I'm cracking batch 30, but from everything I've heard from other people, lower the batch, the better they were. Let's find out. Ooh. Oh my God, that is crazy. Raisin, sweet raisin, but still like the tobacco. So there's like a tobacco, like cigar box, cherry, dark cherry, plum. I see, you can already tell I'm loving those fruits. There's something about those fruits. I had a lot of oak on this. I was reading that this is a 11 to 18 year blend in here. Really good age statement. This one goes for nowadays about $180 to $200. I personally wouldn't pay more than $225 for it, depending on the batch. Obviously, like I said, if it was the 2023 best whiskey of the year, it's worth it to overpay if you're willing to do that. We always have this argument when it comes to whiskeys that sometimes it's okay to overpay. What's the reason? Well, if you go to a restaurant or a bar and you pay for a pour, you're definitely overpaying. There's no way you're not overpaying. And people will go and pay $30 for a pour, but they won't pay $20 more for a whiskey bottle. I get chasing MSRP and I get having standards, but there's certain times where it's like, if it's not that much more, weigh out the percentage, it's worth it. So that's my opinion. Definitely some like nuttiness, like roasted nuts. There's a darkness to it. You could say leather. I mean, I'm sure there's like a little leather taste to it. There's a dryness, like you're getting those fruity notes with the dryness. So it's not very like sugary sweet. To me, it's what I look for in a whiskey, you know, like going back to the 3 you're seeing, you're gonna see a lot that are combined together. And when there's a woodiness, like on the Four Roses, you do get a little bit of that dryness, right? You're never gonna have a wood that's sweet, in my opinion. And then on the next one that I'm gonna announce as my #1 favorite bourbon, it gets some of those notes as well. But man, it's so balanced. I just had a person come over not too long ago and I gave him some pours and he sent me a picture a couple days later and he bought 4 Joseph Magnus cigar blends because he loved it so much and now he thinks it's the best in the collection. So I've heard some people say they got the newer versions and they're solid, they don't rave about them, but I've never heard a person say that they got the earlier versions and did not love them. So to me, this deserves to be #2 on my list as the best bottles I have. And like I said, it doesn't need to have a cigar, but me and Jeremiah are big cigar fans. So it just matches up with our lifestyle. We love having cigars with whiskey. It's when the great conversations are sparked. It's just when the best times are had. And the #1 bourbon whiskey in my collection, this was so hard to pick, but when I think about the one that I'm gonna pour, whether it's a special day in my life or I really just want the best of the best, this is the one that comes to mind. Russell's Reserve 15 year. Now I know some people are tossed up on this and I once again think the reason is because of the price. It's a $250 minimum bottle, MSRP of $250. So I get why you would be tossed up on this bottle. But if you take away the price and you blinded this against other whiskeys, bet this comes out on top many times. I bet it does. And sure, you know, I want to make a video on this in the future, and I think there is like this big thing in the world of whiskey where people don't make their own opinions because we're online, we're on the blogs, we're talking to other people, and we just hear something over and over, and then we have that belief when we try the whiskey. I think it's important that we start making our own minds up when it comes to drinking these whiskeys. So I obviously heard the noise about people being tossed up on Russell's Reserve 15-year, and I was like, let's try it. And I've had, some of my friends say that they prefer the 13-year over the 15-year. And then when I dove deeper, I found out it was once again the price. I think the Russell's Reserve 13-year is about $125, $150, and then this one is about $250. So huge increase. Then the argument would be made, is it double better? I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if it's double better. I will say I'm eliminating the price factor. So if price is big for you and you can't go out and get a lot of whiskeys, sure, maybe it's not as great. But for me, this is just about my favorite whiskey in my collection, my favorite bourbon whiskey in my collection. Eddie Russell said that he actually tried at least a minimum of, 10 times through 15 years, these barrels before he felt that they were ready. So they're waiting for the right time, and they obviously know what they're doing with the 13-year. A lot of other releases by them are phenomenal. The Russell's Reserve have some of the best single barrels that are out there. They just absolutely nailed it with this release. And I get blackberry, baking spices. God, it's so good. Cherry cola, cocoa, like a chocolate, but like more powdery. Once again, I'm getting those jams. Like every one that I said that I loved on my list gets a little bit of fruit in there. I like the sweeter whiskeys. I like the fruity whiskeys, but this is the one that I'm always the most excited to share. I'm actually mad because I did go to a drop at Total Wine in Austin, Texas. When I got the Blanton's Gold, which I do like, I got it because it was just a little bit cheaper, because I had that mindset before of like, oh, the price. A Russell's Reserve 15 is $250, but they had these for $250. Now I wish I could go back. And I'll see these trade for like $500 on the trading market. Not a big believer in flipping for more money, but I see nothing wrong with trading whiskey bottles. So I've seen this one trade for about a $500 value. So you can get some pretty good stuff. I wish I bought it for $250, so I just had to back up to this because now I don't want to kill this and now I want another bottle. Seriously, Russell's Reserve 15 is my favorite whiskey that I have in my collection. If I have a friend coming over and I know they really enjoy whiskey, this is the one that I'm pulling out. Anyway, thanks again, guys. I got to show you a little bit of my collection. I'm gonna do a tour in the future, so subscribe and like if you wanna see that tour. And we're gonna be doing other crazy tours when we go to Louisville, New York City, we're going to California, other cities in Texas. We have a lot of tours to come. And we also do bourbon hunting, some things like that. So check us out and we will be back with another video soon. Cheers.